Blessing the water. Pope Francis visits a site important to Catholic and Indigenous pilgrims before embarking on the second leg of his trip to Canada. Marriage Equality Act. Why some Republican lawmakers are raising concerns over a bill being considered in the U.S. Senate. Abortion and faith. Insights from a Jewish perspective in the fight for the unborn. And a floating procession. A novena celebration in Rome concludes with a special tradition. We'll explain. On EWTN News Nightly for Wednesday, July 27th, 2022. With us tonight, I'm Tracy Sable. Pope Francis wrapped up his visit to Edmonton, Canada, with a pair of public events. After celebrating an outdoor mass yesterday afternoon, the Holy Father blessed the water and around 10,000 spectators at Lake St. Anne. It is a site of spiritual importance for Catholic and Indigenous pilgrims. The lake was named by a Catholic priest back in 1842. The first Catholic church there was built 2 years later. Indigenous people also place spiritual emphasis on the body of water, which is around an hour's drive from Edmonton. Today, the Holy Father traveled to Quebec City. It is part of the second leg of his nearly week-long journey. Stay with EWTN News Nightly for more on the Holy Father's historic visit. Back here in the United States, the Marriage Equality Act passed by the House last week waits Senate action. All Democrats support it, and as of right now, at least 4 Republicans are on board. But some lawmakers worry about provisions redefining marriage that go beyond codifying same-sex marriages. Capitol Hill correspondent Eric Rosales reports. Eric?
That's right, Tracy. You know, this bill actually repeals a law defining the union of marriage between one man and one woman. Republicans say that it could open up the door to polygamy, and it lacks any conscious protections. Now, I did ask Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer about this, and all he would say is that it's a priority to get it passed.
The bottom line is that we care very much about the Equality Act, the Marriage Equality Act. We are working real hard to get 10 Republican senators. Between that and the illnesses, we're not there yet.
But a conservative analyst tells me the measure might open Pandora's box.
The bill itself would allow and require federal recognition of polygamy and polyamory if a single state were to adopt it. And don't think that this is some sort of theoretical risk. Already the city of Somerville and Cambridge, Massachusetts have legalized polygamy as part of a domestic partnership.
Some Senate Republicans, including Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, have yet to say how they plan to vote.
I'm not going to make an observation about that until the issue is actually brought up in the Senate.
I don't know how I'm going to vote on the bill. I haven't even read it yet.
Meanwhile, other conservative lawmakers tell me they plan to vote against it.
Of course, I know I'm old-fashioned. I'm fully aware of that. You know, I've already been married 63 years, so I've made up my mind.
Some Republicans say they don't understand why lawmakers are talking about the issue when Americans are dealing with record inflation.
There are so many more important issues that we should be focused on at the federal level. Getting the economy back and going is all people back home are talking about is inflation, the price of gasoline, groceries, and rent. So that's where my focus is.
It's important to note that even though Senator Schumer says it's a priority, senators do plan to deal with the reconciliation bill first. Yes, another one before they go on their August recess next week. And by the way, the CHIPS bill, that's the one that's going to bring billions of dollars of manufacturing of microchips here in the United States. That did pass the Senate today, and it's on its way to the House. At the Capitol, Eric Rosales, EWTN News Nightly.
Well, in the past 2 months in the United States, there have been at least 82 attacks on pro-life organizations. One of the most recent attacks took place in Massachusetts. Your Options Medical Pregnancy Center was vandalized with the phrase, "If abortions aren't safe, neither are you. It is the same phrase that has been spray painted on many other pro-life institutions nationwide. And joining us now to discuss is Joe Bukuras, staff writer for Catholic News Agency. Joe, welcome back. Always great to see you. Sadly, these attacks on pro-life organizations continue, but I understand there have been a few arrests. What can you tell us about that?
That's right, Tracy. There have been a few arrests reported on recently. St. Jane Francis de Chantal in Bethesda, Maryland. You might remember that one. There was a recent arson. A juvenile ended up getting arrested in that in connection with that arson. So no name was released. St. Louis Catholic Church in Bellevue, Washington. There was an arrest there as well. That arrest happened the same day. They saw Maeve Noda was the name of the perpetrator who was allegedly attacked the church and a member of the church there. St. Coleman Catholic Church, there was an arrest as well. St. John Newman in New Jersey, and St. Thomas the Apostle in Mississippi. So we've seen 5 arrests so far. As far as pro-life pregnancy centers, we haven't seen any. I haven't seen any reports of any arrests. And I've talked to CEOs at different clinics. I've talked to people on the ground. Anything. So we're keeping an eye out for that to see if any of those are going to come soon.
Joe, what about the trigger laws? More are set to take effect. How do you think things will play out there? Do you think we'll see an increase in vandalism or violence in those states?
Yeah, well, only time will tell what we're going to see, but I can tell from what we've seen so far. Like if you look at Kansas, they've got this up with this value them both amendment, and I have seen an extreme amount of vandalism to these pro-life signs that are being put in all these people's yards who are supporting the amendment. So it seems like the closer they're getting to passing a pro-life amendment, the vandalism is going up. And we think we saw the same thing before the Dobbs case was about to be dropped. So the closer they got, more vandalism there was. So again, only time will tell. But from what we've seen so far, I think the closer we get to those dates, it's possible we could see an uptick in vandalism.
I want to switch gears here just ever so slightly and talk about Massachusetts, where you are right now. I understand in Somerville, they actually banned crisis pregnancy centers because they don't offer abortions. And apparently some other cities in the state are trying to enact similar ordinances. What more can you tell us about this, Joe?
Yeah, so what's happening in different municipalities around the state here is they're passing town ordinances or city ordinances that basically say pro-life pregnancy centers, which they call limited service pregnancy centers, are not allowed to engage in what they call deceptive advertising practices. So what does that mean? Well, if you look at their ordinances, they don't define what deceptive advertising practices is. So it's basically up to whoever's enforcing the law there. And I think I saw in one of the cities, it was the city's health department. So the cities that I've tracked are Cambridge, Somerville, Worcester has one in the works right now, and then East Hampton. And then there's a federal lawsuit right now in the state of Connecticut because there was actually a state law that basically had that same language. And Alliance Defending Freedom is leading that lawsuit, suing the state because they say that it's unconstitutional. It's an unconstitutional breach on freedom of speech, and that can't be allowed. So we'll see how that federal lawsuit plays out, and if that has any effect on these municipalities here in Massachusetts. And I did also hear about one in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh recently, in the past week or 2 weeks, just passed a similar law, except they did actually give a definition for what deceptive advertising means. And I ran that by one of the lawyers at Alliance Defending Freedom, and he still said that that's just insufficient and still allows the whoever's enforcing that law in that city to basically take advantage of it and do whatever they want. So,
all right, we're going to leave it right there. Joe, thanks so much for your time, and always thank you for reporting.
Thanks, Tracy.
President Joe Biden's isolation from coronavirus is over. He made an unexpected appearance in the Rose Garden this morning after his physician said that he tested negative for COVID-19. It is the first time the president has held an in-person public event since he came down with the virus. White House correspondent Owen Jensen reports. Owen?
Tracy, President Joe Biden has been appearing virtually only lately or on Twitter, and today he showed the world in person he's getting better. Meantime, the health of the overall economy, it's a huge concern, of course, and today the Fed made its move. President Joe Biden tells reporters in the Rose Garden he's doing much better after coming down with the virus, and he thanks people for their prayers.
Thankfully, God willing, my symptoms were mild, my recovery was quick, and I'm feeling great.
And as the battle against COVID-19 remains a constant challenge, still killing hundreds of people every day, the president tells Americans it's not too late to get protected.
In fact, this new variant that infected me is getting a lot of people infected all around the world, not just here in the United States. We should take precautions to try to slow the spread of this virus.
Meanwhile, the economy worries about a recession ahead.
I got my coins, I got my dollars, and my credit card. I'm filling to the top. I got to save those dollars for the food.
Inflation at a 4-decade high. The Federal Reserve acts.
The labor market is extremely tight, and inflation is much too high. Against this backdrop, today the FOMC raised its policy interest rate by 0.75 of a percentage point.
The higher interest rates could help your savings account, but hurt your chances of finding an affordable home or car loan. And after a dramatic downturn this year, the stock market has seen some improvement in recent days. It's unclear what will happen to slammed retirement accounts next. Meanwhile, in Washington, D.C. today, Second Gentleman Douglas Emhoff attends the Korean War Veterans Memorial Wall of Remembrance dedication, July 27, 2022. It was on July 27, 1953, the Korean War armistice was signed, ending 3 years of fighting. Now back to President Biden. When he caught COVID, he cleared his travel schedule, but now he's fully back to work. After his remarks in the Rose Garden today, he went straight to the Oval Office, but he had no interest in taking questions from reporters. At the White House, Owen Jensen, EWTN News Nightly.
At least 5 people are dead and dozens more injured following a strong earthquake in the northern Philippines. A magnitude 7 quake triggered landslides and damaged many buildings, including Catholic churches. Tremors were felt across a wide area. The country's newly elected president says his residence was shaken. Ferdinand Marcos Jr. pledges government aid for recovery. The newly elected leader of Peru's Congress says that we will fight political corruption.
El momento crítico por el que atraviesa nuestro país, tanto a nivel político como social y económico.
Lady Khamenei made her remarks taking the oath of office. Peru's attorney general is investigating the president's campaign finances. Meanwhile, abortion supporters protested Khamenei's election for her party's pro-life commitment. In Australia, officials are battling rising inflation, and the central bank is likely to raise interest rates for a 4th consecutive month.
Inflation is high and rising, and global growth is slowing. And both of these things have a direct impact on Australians and their living standards. We are not surprised to see inflation north of 6%, but it's still confronting.
Remarks from Treasurer Jim Chalmers come as inflation jumped to 6.1%. Last year, it was 3.5%. The new center-left Labour Party is preparing to announce its plans to battle the spike. Coming up, one rabbi's response to commentators who say the Jewish faith supports abortion. This week marks 1 month since the Supreme Court released its decision on Dobbs and overturned Roe versus Wade. And it's a decision that has the nation grappling over whether the ruling impacts religious freedom. Fox recently interviewed a rabbi who claims Judaism supports abortion access, saying in part the overturning of Roe is, quote, a violation of our First Amendment rights. It's definitely a violation of free exercise of religion, because it's not only true that my religion permits me to have an abortion anytime that there is a need, but also at times I am obligated to have an abortion in order to save my own life. And joining us now to discuss is Rabbi Yaakov Menken, Managing Director for the Coalition for Jewish Values. Rabbi Menken, great to have you on. Thanks for coming back. First off, I want to get your thoughts on what that rabbi had to say about abortion and Judaism.
Well, it's simply upending what traditional Jewish values are. Yes, it is true that in order to save the mother's life, the life of the mother does take precedence, and that even if that involves the tragic loss of the life of the fetus, the mother must be saved first. But that does not mean it is a choice. It does not mean that a fetus is dispensable, that feticide is a Jewish value. That's actually an abhorrent misconstruing of Jewish values.
So, Rabbi, what does the Jewish faith teach about abortion?
Well, everything that is found in the Bible about abortion is actually found in our Bible. The idea that Rebecca is told that not only that she's having twins, but the different nature of the two twins explains their behavior in utero. That corresponds with the book of Jeremiah, where God says, "From the womb I have sanctified you, in the womb I knew you." I'm actually reversing the verse, but it says explicitly there that God knew who Jeremiah was before he had emerged from the womb.
And there's something else I want to talk to you about. You may have heard about this. The Miami Herald recently reported that a rabbi is suing Florida over its pro-life law, arguing the law infringes on religious freedom. How much standing do you think these religious freedom claims have?
I honestly think, again, it's ridiculous and abhorrent when you look at something that religion permits. Is therefore the government is not allowed to limit. He's not talking about a situation where it's mandatory. That's a distortion because that's simply untrue. Florida law explicitly allows a carve-out to save the mother's life in other situations where there's actually a mandate to perform an abortion, which, by the way, again, is not just in Judaism. But when it regards to that which religion permits a person to do, are we going to say that because my religion allows me to go through a red light, if I look both ways and I see no one coming, does that mean government can't tell me, no, you can't go through that red light? Well, what if you have a religion that says I'm allowed to murder the infidel? Is government not allowed to say, no, you're not?
You know, very good points. And a lot of lawmakers have been very vocal about this, even Vice President Harris. You know, I want to play this clip for you right here and get your comments afterwards, what she had to say. Let's take a listen.
One does not have to abandon your faith or your beliefs to agree that the government should not be making this decision for her.
Rabbi, your take on that?
Well, I don't have to abandon my religion to allow a person to commit suicide either, unless I believe that there's such a concept as you shall not stand idly by your brother's blood. We incarcerate people who wish to murder themselves. How then do we allow, then just say, okay, we're going to allow a woman to commit feticide simply because we believe that should be her choice? How is that more her choice than her choice to decide, well, my life has no value, I want to kill myself?
Something else I want to talk about, Rabbi, before we let you go. I know your organization, the Coalition for Jewish Values, signed onto a letter addressed to Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell opposing the Respect for Marriage Act. Tell us more about that and why you feel that bill could endanger religious freedom.
Well, they call it the Respect for Marriage Act, but what it really means is that you are forced to respect what any state decides is a marriage. So if all of a sudden a particular state decides to reestablish polygamy, for example, you would be forced to recognize that too. It's not actually about defense of marriage. It's not actually about certainly not about standardizing around one man, one woman. It's about demanding that you, especially if you are a business owner, not deny service to someone based on what marriage they want you to celebrate. This is like Jack Phillips on steroids. Let's go sue him yet again for saying, I will bake a cake for anybody based on who they are, but I cannot bake a cake to celebrate a gay wedding. Well, once again, this law would simply allow anybody in that situation to be prosecuted anywhere in the union.
All right, and we're going to leave it right there. Rabbi Menken, great to have you on. Thank you for your time.
Thanks so much.
Up next, the new rector for U.S. seminarians in Rome tells us his goals for the North American College. Pontifical North American College, a main seminary in Rome, has a new rector. Monsignor Thomas Powers is a former student at the NAC. The 57-year-old is a priest in the Diocese of Bridgeport, Connecticut. He says everyone in any seminary is called to live moral lives according to Catholic teaching. The newest seminarians arrived at the NAC last week. The North American College was inaugurated in 1859. And the new rector, Monsignor Thomas Powers, joins us now from the Pontifical North American College in Rome. Monsignor, thank you so much for joining us, and congratulations.
Thank you, Tracy, very much. Glad to be with you.
And if you don't mind, can you tell us a little bit more about this appointment and whether having studied at the NAC will help in your current role?
Yeah, it's a great shock to me when I got the phone call. It's a call I never expected, never sought, and I was very happy, of course, as pastor of the parish, vicar general in the diocese, in my home diocese with my family and friends nearby. And so it was a shock and a big yes, a big sacrifice, quite frankly, to come over. But I've never said no to the church, and I'm grateful and honored for the appointment. And it does help. I've lived here in this building really 13 years of my life, 5 years as a seminarian, and then 8 years when I served in the Holy See, and was here as an adjunct spiritual director. So thank goodness I know the building, know the personale, the workers here, know how this place works and runs, which is a big, big help. The job is big enough, and my learning curve is already very steep, but it does help that I've spent a lot of time here myself already.
Yeah, it's very, very exciting. In an interview with our partners at Catholic News Agency, I understand that you said that you want the seminary to have an atmosphere of transparency and trust, with Christ being at the center of everything. Can you tell us more about that?
Certainly, that's not a new concept, but of course the program for priestly formation, the 6th edition that was just recently published, talks about the rector as the father of the community, the spiritual father, which I really want to be. That's my main priority, is to be a spiritual father to these men and to the whole community. And the rector, it says, sets the tone, and the tone is of mutual trust and respect. And of course, transparency brings mutual trust and respect. We want these men to be formed well, to be good, holy priests and joyful priests back home serving in the States, and those we have from Australia back in Australia. It's really important that they really give themselves completely to this formation program. And as the Ratio says, a man must know himself and let himself be known. And so we want to make sure that guys can talk about freely their struggles, their hopes, their dreams about being a priest. So we ordain a human person. We don't ordain dimensions. We talk about the dimensions of formation: human, intellectual, spiritual, and pastoral, but the whole human person is ordained. And so we want to make sure that, again, as the Ratio says, men come here, they know themselves with great self-knowledge, and they make themselves known so that they can discern well, and then the church can discern well to decide to call them forward for ordination.
Yeah, Monsignor, before I let you go, for those who may not be all that familiar with the North American College, can you talk to us more about that, and how many students are there, and where do they come from, and what do they mainly study?
We have about 55 dioceses represented here, and the men come over from all over the country. We just had 23 of our new men, they're called. The first-year theologians came last Wednesday. They were here through Sunday, and then we sent them off for 1 month of Italian language studies in Assisi, in Vermania, and in Siena, and they'll all come back. The students will come back at the end of August. We'll begin our workshops, and we'll begin the year in earnest. But the men who come here, they finish up what's called an STB, a degree in 3 years, and then most come back for the 4th year and maybe 5th year to get a licensed degree. It's a great educational institution. It's got a wonderful history. Of course, the original college was founded in 1859, and this magnificent building was dedicated in 1953, that has trained thousands of men for the priesthood. So again, it's an honor for me to be part of it.
Monsignor Powers, thank you so much for your time today, and congratulations. God bless you.
Thanks, Tracy. God bless you. Thank you.
Finally, tonight, new pictures reveal a Catholic tradition in Rome that is nearly 500 years old. The floating procession of Our Lady of Mount Carmel took to the Tiber River on Sunday night. It is the end of a 9-day celebration to her. The ceremony dates from the year 1535, when fishermen recovered a statue of the Blessed Virgin on the river after a storm. They donated the statue to a local Carmelite community. At the end of the Sunday's floating ceremony, the faithful lit off fireworks. The Carmelites say Our Lady is someone to whom we can entrust our thoughts and our worries. Beautiful. Well, we thank you for watching tonight. For the entire EWTN News Nightly team, I'm Tracy Sable. Good night and God bless.